I want to talk about getting credit for producing a song for somebody if you're an unknown producer. So let's just get out in front of it. There's guys like Andrew Sheps, Mark Daniel Nelson, Jack Joseph Puig. I mean, Glyn Johns. I'll put up a few names up there, right? Warren, Hewart. There we go. Getting better at it. There's guys like that who have names. People know who they are. When they go to produce a song, they can actually make a whole thing about what it is that they will get, what the cost will be, what exactly they're doing, and now if they do this, they're going to get these many percentage points. They can get that all out of the way because those people who know who they are coming to them, and they're going to do whatever is set out, whatever is like the list of what these people need. That's what will happen because they're coming to them, and the names, they decide, they control what's going on. They won't work on the project unless whatever, yada yada, right? So that's not the case for most of us. Most people working in music are not on that level. Once you get lucky enough to get on that level, you've worked hard enough and you've actually gotten lucky enough where now you're somebody who something breaks for and you're there, right? This will be easy for you. Until then, what you're going to have to do is what I'm about to describe, because this has worked for me. And this was a question that came up in a lesson I was giving today. Somebody said, I produced a song for somebody, but they only hired me to mix it, mix and master it. So how do I go about getting producer credit? Great question. And that's why I figured you guys could benefit from it. This has been my experience with the same thing, because we've all been there, all right? The move, in my opinion, is to basically prove your value to them before you do anything, which means they're going to send you their stuff to mix and master. When you get that, you go through in your head, what is this great? Is it as good as it can be? Or are you possibly, do you have ideas that you would add to this in order to make it better that you can do because of your skills as a musician, or, the fact that you have a studio and you have a drum kit, or like whatever it is, when you hear it, could it be better? Because a lot of artists who self-record might be, their own self-contained project. So that means they might sing and maybe they play keyboard or something, but they might not play drums. They might not play bass so well. They might not play, all the instruments that maybe you do, because a lot of producers, and when I say producers, I don't mean beat makers. I really mean guys who work with artists to get a song to get to its fullest potential, like a Rick Rubin or any of the names that I named already, like Mark Daniel Nelson, Jack Joseph Puig, Warren, any of those people, and there's tons of others. But what I'm saying is the guys that work with artists to get songs to as the best they can be, that's the producer definition I'm referring to. Now, if you want to get into that world, the way I recommend doing it is first building your value in that person's eyes who's hiring you. If they are going to hire you to do something, it could be that they don't know who you are, but they heard a couple samples of what you've done and they want to work with you. So the first way that you could alienate them and make sure you don't work with them, which is not what you want to do, is by out front saying that this needs this and this and this, and I'll do that, but I'm going to charge you X amount extra to do all these things. Because if an artist is coming to you with their song and they want you to mix it for them, a good chance they don't have a ton of money. They're not well financed. And there's a good shot that you will lose them as a client completely just by telling them their song's missing all these things that you want to add, and they've never heard what you're going to do before, and now you're trying to upcharge it so much to be able to compensate for all the time it will take you to do all that. So my experience is you take the stuff that they hired you to mix and master, and you could have a conversation with them about what you want to add, what you want to change, what you want to do. Are they okay with it? And if you will get the sense of who you're dealing with, some people won't want you to touch nothing, and some people will say, absolutely. If you think it could be better, do everything you can. I trust you. Go for it. And they'll especially say this if you don't charge them extra money. So the point is, they've already hired you to work on the song as the mixer. right? They've a mixer, master, whatever. Like, it's usually something you can only do when you have all the tracks. So if they're hiring you to mix the song and master it, that's really what I'm talking about. If you're just getting the song on the mastering level and they don't have all the pieces, or they've already had someone mix it, this probably goes out the window. So what I'm really saying is, if you get into the project at the right time, timing is everything, and they are asking you to take it to that next level, and they think it's only in a mix, but this needs stuff. Maybe this has got a drum machine on it that sounds like crap. It's got a bass on it that's playing a loop for the entire song, and it never changes, the same 4 bars. It could be a number of things. Maybe the whole, or, the arrangement needs to be really changed in order to make it have something it doesn't have. Maybe harmonies need to be added. I could go on and on and on. Could be anything. So the point is, if you have the ears for this, where you're like, man, this would be great if this, and the artist is okay, once you have the conversation with you doing whatever, and you're telling them you're not going to charge them anything extra for it, this will allow you to do something amazing. They get it back. They love it. Now you've proved your value to them. All of a sudden now, they may have worked with a few other people in the past, but now they know, by working with you, look what happens. My song goes from this to this. And wow, what a difference. So once that happens, you basically are in a whole nother position with them. They don't view you the same. They view you now as somebody who offers extreme value to what they're doing. Now, maybe on the next song or the one after it, now you all of a sudden have a leg to stand on when you say, hey, you have to have this conversation with them. You have to say, hey, listen, I do for you much more than mixing and mastering. The difference between what you send me and what I send you is my production. That's a line I use all the time because it makes so much sense, and it so hits home to the point. Because a lot of artists, I want you to understand, it's not their job to understand what it is that a producer does and what it is that a producer gets when it comes to credit. It's not their job to understand it. It's in their interest to understand as much as they can possibly know about the business. But trust me when I tell you, unless they've been through it before with another producer of some kind or somebody who's a little bit seasoned, they're not going to know. In other words, this artist may be a beginner, and that's normal. It's fine. A lot of people who are trying to become producers who are also relatively new, at doing it, they're working with people who aren't established. So it's very common that person wants to be a great artist but doesn't know the ropes. So you got to explain to them the deal. And the way that I like to explain it is very simply like that. The difference between everything you sent me and everything I sent back to you, all those things that weren't there when you sent it to me, everything that got changed, now all of a sudden, the difference there is a real tangible difference that they are aware of. You don't need to, you're not talking in, abstracts anymore. They clearly understand it because they heard what happened to their song the last time. So now it's super easy for them to comprehend what production is. And once you can basically say, look, the difference between what you sent me and what I send you is not mixing and mastering. I added production to this. And if you want me to continue to do this on your songs, then I don't have to charge you extra up front, assuming you give me back-end credit. In other words, you want the producer credit so that you can start to build your resume of things you've produced. Part of producer credit is getting money on the back end. You want that if anything should happen with their song. Now, that's the point. Most artists, I want you to know, are totally okay with not paying upfront costs when they don't know if their song's going to be successful. They're not trying to add to the cost of getting it made. What they are trying to do, and what they're willing to do, is if anything happens with this song as a result of what you added, as a result of the production that got added to their song, they're more than willing to break off a piece of the back end because that's found money for them. It's money that wouldn't have been there if you didn't do what you did. So it becomes something everyone can understand and everyone wraps their head around. But most people, if they've never been through it, they don't know it's even there. They don't know it exists. And I want to let you know, as somebody who may not be a known producer, You're going to have these conversations. So you got to get comfortable talking about it. It's scary at first, but once you cross that threshold of doing this multiple times, then it'll become easy for you. And it's so easy because it's anchored in truth. In other words, there's no doubts, and nobody needs to agree to the fact that you added production. If you added production, if you produced it, then it's the truth. So you have such a leg to stand on. It's the same thing like if somebody writes a song, they are the owner of that song. It doesn't matter if somebody else falsely claims that they wrote the song. The owner of the song is the guy who wrote the song. That's the truth. And if it came down to a legal thing, it would come out who wrote the song, because the guy who wrote it can probably prove that he wrote it. So and the person who didn't can't. So no matter what, you never win when you're anchored in a lie. Whereas when it is the truth, you've got no worries in the world, and it's something that most people have no problem agreeing to because you're not charging them anything extra up front. Now, there's not like one way to do this. Many people may say, you better get it out of the way first. You better actually get paid for the work you do because most things don't make money. In my opinion, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about most things making money at all. What I'm worried about is getting something to work on that could be amazing. And I know how to make it amazing. And I decide not to do it because I'm not getting paid anything extra up front. That is what I will not allow to happen. Now, this, in my mind, is like the JJP way to think about it. In other words, the only way you win is not from a little more in the front. It's from the back, is from being part of this thing as the producer and getting your producer credit. That's how you win. So, in other words, the song gets huge, you might win. Everything else is nothing, is pennies. It's just not enough to even think about. That's why I don't charge extra on the upfront for it. You understand what I'm saying? I only do the back end part because I want to get as many songs as I can from the artist in order to make the biggest chances possible of us hitting something that wins, especially on an artist I believe in. Because that's the other thing. I wouldn't say do this all the time, no matter what. Like I started with, you got to have the ideas to do it, which means you got to be sort of connected with the music and love it and really want it to go as far as it can go. So when that happens, you got to realize you're on the same team as the artist. You guys want the same thing. You're both pulling for greatness, which is what the artist wanted all along. The artist wants, and I got to make this perfectly clear, the artist wants nothing more than for people to care about their music as much as they do. This means people who can take it where it needs to go. That's what every artist is looking for. They're looking for somebody who's going to take what they did and make it even better. They're looking and searching for that. So if you can do that, you are absolutely on their team and they've been waiting for you. And most artists go around looking for that guy. So what I'm basically saying is become that guy and don't make it harder for them to do it by adding more money onto the front end of this thing because you'll lose the clients. And don't make it harder by adding legality in front of this thing. In other words, sign contracts and this stuff. Like I said, you'll only even get close to that if you're an Andrew Sheps on the level of people know you. Once they come to you, you can make the rules, because they know who you are and they know the value. Until then, you don't have a shot of winning that. You're going to lose it every time, in my opinion, of course. So I would rather not alienate the client. I want to get the work. I want to also get the credit for working on more and more things. So my goal is to only have these conversations after I've proven my value. And the way I usually have them is it's just man to man on the phone. Like if you can do the man to man on the phone, you can really feel people out more with where the tone is. You got to get comfortable with talking to people. You really have to, because it's a human to human thing. It's just this is what I did for you. And, I did it because I believe in this project and I love what you're doing. So how could I not give it my absolute all because I got access to all this stuff and you don't? And people who think, how does an artist say no to that? Of course, they're going to be on board and they want you to keep doing it. They want you in their corner if they appreciate the value of what you've offered them, which is why you have to do it after you've actually done stuff that's great, that they can appreciate who you are. Because if you're not known, that's the part you need to do. It's all about timing. You can't do this first. You got to first do the great work. Be amazing at what you do. Learn how to mic everything, the drums and everything else. You got a violin friend and you think it needs it, have them come in and do it. Whatever it is, you're coming up with the ways to make it amazing, and then you're extremely valuable to them. And at that point, after you've had the phone conversation, I recommend throwing it in a text, an email, or a messenger or something, just so you can point to something later and not legal, don't attach a Word document from a lawyer. Please. I don't think it makes any sense because you'll alienate people. As soon as you go super legal, then they go super legal. It's all over. A contract's only as good as the person signing it. All right. In other words, if they have bad intentions, no matter what you do, you're not protected. No matter what, if their intentions are bad and they're that type of person. But what I'm saying is have a little faith. Most people, especially people who find that spirit that's one with them, that kindred spirit where like, ooh, we both want this. We hear music the same way. They want you on their team. So realize that this is an easy thing. All you got to do is do the communication right and then put it in something where you can point to later in case they forget. That's really it. In other words, just to remember you talked about it. It can't hurt to just write what you said down in a text, an email, and just send it. And that way, there's a record of that, and you can always point to that if they forget. Because a lot of times, it's not even by choice. A lot of people have a lot going on in their lives, and they don't always remember stuff. So it really helps to put it down. It doesn't mean they're a bad person if they don't remember or whatever. But the conversation's great. But putting it down, some kind of, text, email, messenger, that's good enough. Because in my opinion, like I said, you want the work. You don't want to alienate the person. And they will get on board with this because you are offering something they can't just do by themselves on their own. They got to either go find somebody else who's going to do it and be totally, numb and blind to the fact of what they should get for doing the extra production that they're doing, or they'll just work with you because they know what that's already like and they love it. It just makes so much sense. So you're not getting one over on anybody. You're just getting what's rightfully yours because there's a truth here. You produced the song. You are owed credit. You deserve the credit because you produced the song. You deserve credit on the back end. If anything should happen, it's yours because you did the work. In other words, you did it. So it doesn't matter if it's like, it's something everyone will get behind. Trust me. All right. And, just be fair. The truth is being fair is everything. Okay. Which means if somebody else did something, you should be fair. And it might not be all yours, but you still get credit because you did what you did. So there's like a logic here that makes sense because whenever you have a real truthful leg to stand on, you win. You win because you are walking the righteous path of what you really did. And somebody would have to be going out of their way to do you wrong in order to even balk at that, even, try to dodge that. And most people aren't like that. Most people really want the best for them, their music, and they want to do whatever is the right thing to do. If they were on the pro level, they would know all about this. So they might get there. And if you're the first person to tell them how it works, then good for you. You may take the whole ride with them. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. I know there's multiple different points of views of how to look at this. So I'm curious what you guys think. It's just in my experience, this is the best way to go about it. And I'm curious if you guys agree. If you don't, I want to hear it. If you do, let me hear it. Throw a comment in there. Hit the like button if you dug it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Evan Jaffe, Custom Cut Studios. You guys got this, all right? It's an easier conversation to have than you think. You got this. Take it easy.